Well, hello and welcome. Long time no see. I know it's been ages, hasn't it? So I need to first of all thank Osbel for the amazing I've just gone mentally blank. The amazing picture that she did, which will become the thumbnail, which has been the thumbnail for several of the Novak Djokovic pictures. So thank you, Osbel. Amazing. So I'm just gonna just take that picture now and take us and we're gonna do that right now. So here we've got hello the fox. So we are going to look at the judgment. We are going to look at the reason for decision, which is really, really interesting. There is 1 million pages, 106 paragraphs. So we will try and look through them all and see how we go. I've had a very, very quick look, very quick skim through them. And it would seem that there is admission that there was some debate on a few matters, which is very, very interesting. And you like my hippopotamus Band-Aid? I went to the first aid today because I cut my finger at work and all they had were kids' Band-Aids. And so I went, oh, I got a hippo. Reminds me of that, I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Those of you in Australia and that are old enough may remember Patsy Biscoe. She had that on one of her albums, on her Christmas album, or one of her albums. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Anyway, I digress. So we have also news articles out. I have been reading today that there is talk that Djokovic is going to sue the Australian government for $6 million. That will be very, very interesting for loss of earnings. I don't know why. I understand, but he actually would be better off suing, in my opinion. He'd be better off suing Tennis Australia or Craig Tiley, because Craig Tiley was the one that worked with him to get him out here. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. So that's just what I think. Anyway. So, lots of banging. So let's have a look at this decision and see. I know there's lots of news articles out around. I haven't read any of them. I haven't read any of them. We are going to go straight to the source. I'm sorry for that banging. I don't know what that is. Okay, so here we go. The reason for decision. So this is straight from the federal court website. I put a link below. So reasons published today, date of judgment. So here are the catchwords and the legislations. This is the legislation they had to follow. And then we've got all the cases that were cited by both parties. So there's a lot there. There are a lot of cases in here. Okay. So it was in the Victorian Registry. It came under the Administrative and Constitutional Law and Human Rights. There's 106 six paragraphs. We got the lawyers for the counsel for the appellant, the solicitor for the applicant, the counsel for the respondent, and then the solicitor for the respondent is the Australian government solicitor. So these are the orders. So we had the orders. So the court ordered that the amended application be dismissed with costs, such costs to be agreed or failing agreement assessed. That means that if you can't agree on costs, they will be assessed. Now, hello, poppy seeds. Oh, look, we got the. So if they fail to reach an agreement, it's done for them. A bit like Porter and Grisanthu, they've had a costs order issued now. All right, and reasons to be published at a later date. Entry of orders dealt with. So anyway, here we go. Reasons for judgment. So it says the applicant, Mr. Djokovic, is a citizen of Serbia. He's currently the world's #1 tennis player. Mr. Djokovic was issued a Class GG subclass 408 temporary activity visa on the 18th of November 2021 for the purpose of competing in the Australian Open Tennis Championships. He arrived in Australia on the 5th of January 2022. Upon his arrival, was taken to immigration clearance and questioned by officers of the Department of Home Affairs until the early hours of the 6th of January 2022. On the same day, his visa was purportedly cancelled by a delegate of the Minister for Home Affairs under S1161EI of the Migration Act 1958. The provision is at the centre of the proceeding as is in the following terms. Subject to subsections 2 and 3, the Minister may cancel a visa if he or she satisfied that. E is the presence of the holder in Australia is or may be or would or might be a risk to. And part I says the health, safety or good order of the Australian community or a segment of the Australian community. Hello, Bella Marie. Plan to create. You there's 106 paragraphs, so I could be a while. We're going to try and read through them. I forgot what even time it is. I've got no concept of day or time at the moment. Poppy Seeds just says the first 2 to 3 is essentially just the background and points of law. The judge's reasons themselves start from ground 3 heading. Yep. Okay, cool. So this is the background, as Poppy Seed says. Oh, and hey, Poppy Seed, you got some stuff? Oh, yeah. So this is, I think, this is the part that that is very interesting because everyone says about it being an appeal, but it's actually, it wasn't an appeal, which is what everybody says. He had an application for a judicial review. There's a difference. So we know that it was on border security. Yeah. Did you get rid of the troll? Anyway, so it talks about the fact that one says it was transferred. So he'd put in another application. And then also the fact that then it went to the federal court and the Chief Justice directed that the original jurisdiction of the court in this proceeding be exercised by a full court. The Chief Justice explained the reasons for making the direction at the commencement of the hearing on the following day. So it was the Chief Justice that made the decision for the full court. Thank you, Bella Marie. That's right. I've got Bella Marie and I've got Poppy Seeds. Yeah. Okay, then it says, as will explain, an application for judicial review is one in which the judicial branch of government reviews by reference to legality or lawfulness the decision or decisions of the executive branch of government, here in the form of a decision of the minister. The court does not consider the merits or wisdom of a decision, nor does it remake the decision. The task of the court is to rule upon the lawfulness or legality of the decision by reference to the complaints made about it. This is the thing that people don't realize, that the court was only to look at whether it was lawful and legal, and it was only there to review. You can't tell the minister you have to reinstate the visa. They could find that there was a point of law that he missed, or that what he, under the law, this was questionable or this was questionable, and to review it, but they can't say to him, you can't change it. So this is about the statutory provision. I hope I explained that okay, Poppy Seeds. And it all comes down to this word satisfied. This is what I was talking about before. And here is what they deal with, this state of satisfaction, because we know that it states that the minister has to be satisfied. All right? Satisfied. Thus, it is not the fact of Mr. Djokovic being a risk to the health, safety, or good order of the Australian community. Rather, it is whether the minister was satisfied that his presence is or may be or would or might be such a risk for the purposes of Section 1161EI through Section 133C3. The satisfaction of the minister is not an unreviewable personal state of mind. The law is clear as to what is required. If, by review of the court, the satisfaction is found to have been reached unreasonably or was not capable of being reached on proper material or lawful grounds, it will be taken not to be a lawful satisfaction for the purposes of the statute. In such a case, the precondition for exercise of the power will not exist, and the decision will be unlawful and it will be set aside. That is, the lawful satisfaction is a jurisdictional precondition, a form of jurisdictional fact for the exercise of the power of discretion. Okay? So they can only talk about whether it was reached on proper material or lawful grounds. But remember, only the minister has the power for issuing visas and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they go through about satisfaction, what the lawful merits of satisfaction is. And that one. So again, they've talked about this thing of satisfaction. Findings of fact without relevant evidence or material related to the body of principle is a ground of review invoked in this proceeding in relation to two of the three grounds of review mounted. I can't get a that a fact, finding a fact here connected to the formation of a state of satisfaction was made in the absence of any evidence or supporting material. Again, we've got case law. All right, so we're into this legal unreasonableness and a discussion about that. And how decisions are made. All right, ultimately the question is whether the satisfaction of the relevant state of affairs or matter was irrational, illogical, or not based on findings or inferences of facts supported by logical grounds. Now we get into the act, the content of 1.1, so about the into the statute. Prior to the Migration Amendment, Character and General Visa Cancellation Act, it read the presence of the visa holder in Australia is or would be a risk to, as matters presented out in paragraph. Yeah. For the most part, Poppy says they've agreed with the minister's submissions on the law as it relates to this. Yes, That's what I got from it. So again, this is just all law, right? Yeah, it's a lot of quoting case precedents and restating requirements in the Act. That's right. Now we get to the public interest, what the public interest is. Then we get to the decision of the minister. It comprised of 10 pages, 71 paragraphs. The reasons began by reciting the history of the matter in paragraph 4. And then, there we go. That. So they've quoted what he said. Then by way of background, the minister noted a number of things. Then they talk about the satisfaction as to the risk, the health and safety, health of the community. So they're going through the minister's decision as it relates to satisfaction here. Okay, we've got this one. He's trying to get it. Trying to get me to sing something. And so again, a lot of quoting the minister. Yeah, well, he reckons he's going to. The rumor is he's suing Australia for $6 million, apparently. All right, so some observations. Second, the minister found a number of places using similar words that not only say Mr. Djokovic was unvaccinated, but it was publicly and widely known that he was opposed to being vaccinated. Thirdly, the minister found Mr. Djokovic's presence in Australia may foster anti-vaccination sentiment. Fourthly, and related to third point, some of the material and the attachments made reference to anti-vaccination groups who have or may have participated in civil disturbances. Okay, then we get into the risk and of good order. Now, let me just tell you that COVID, there's a player tested positive the other day to COVID. I know for a fact we're losing a lot of workers to COVID. In fact, somebody that I was working with the other day, he's off work at the moment waiting for a COVID test results. So, you know, I could be out of action for a few days myself. So, while I wait for mine. So the minister sets out reasons that he considered weighed in favour of public interest. And then why it would not be in the public interest to cancel his visa. So, you know, he concluded that the points raised against cancellation were outweighed by other factors. So the other considerations and discretions. And then the decision. So then we've got the amended application. So now they're addressing, they've addressed the minister. Now they're addressing the amended application as to what was argued by Djokovic. Okay. So they're going to, it says it is convenient to deal with the grounds in reverse order. Yeah. All right, so now we get to this bit. We reject the proposition that it was not open to the minister to find or conclude that Mr. Djokovic had a stance that was well known on vaccination and he was opposed to it. In fact, I read an article today on the side that he is actually a major shareholder in a COVID drug or something. So that doesn't deal with vaccination. So, hello, cheap glass. How are you? So, attachment H referred to in the minister's reasons was an article entitled "What Has Novak Djokovic Actually Said About Vaccines?", which reported that in April 2020, Mr. Djokovic apparently said that he was opposed to vaccination, although he had qualified this by saying that he was no expert and would keep an open mind. He apparently said that he wanted to have an option to choose what's best for my body. He was reported also to have stated on Facebook that he wouldn't want to be forced by somebody to take a vaccine to travel or compete in tournaments. Further, he added he was curious about well-being and how we can empower our metabolism to be in the best shape to defend against imposters like COVID-19. His comments were apparently criticised by the Serbian government epidemiologist at the time. Whilst qualified, these views were expressed and publicly known even before there was a COVID-19 vaccine. Further, there was no issue but that Mr. Djokovic was not, by January 2022, vaccinated. It was plainly open to the minister to infer that Mr. Djokovic had for over a year chosen not to be vaccinated since vaccines had become available, that he had a reason not to have a vaccination at the time of this decision in January 2022. Apparently, having contracted COVID-19 on or about 16th of December 2021, did not say anything as to the position for the many months from the availability of the vaccines to December 2021. It was plainly open to the minister to infer that Mr. Djokovic had chosen not to be vaccinated because he was opposed to vaccination or did not wish to be vaccinated. Whilst the minister had not asked Mr. Djokovic about his present attitude to vaccines, that only meant that there was no express statement on the contrary, which could be inferred to his attitude up to January 2022. Mr. Djokovic had not volunteered any information when he was interviewed at the airport by officers of the Department of Home Affairs. He did not give evidence of any apparent change of attitude. It was also open to the minister to infer that the public would view his attitude as the media had portrayed, that he was unwilling to be vaccinated, and grounds 3 was dismissed. Ground 2. The central proposition of Mr. Djokovic's argument was that the minister lacked any evidence and cited none that his presence may foster anti-vaccination sentiment. There was no evidence, it was submitted, that he had urged people not to be vaccinated, nor was there any evidence that in the past his circumstances had fostered such a sentiment in other countries. However, it was open to infer that it was perceived by the public that Mr. Djokovic was not in favour of vaccinations. It was known, or at least perceived by the public, that he'd chosen not to be vaccinated. There was material in attachment H before the minister, and to which he referred in reasons that anti-vaccination groups had portrayed Mr. Djokovic as a hero and an icon of freedom of choice in relation to being vaccinated. It is important to recognise, however, that the minister's reasons can be seen to encompass the encouragement not only to anti-vaccination groups, some of whom may have extreme views, of whom may be a risk to the good order or public order in the community, but also to people who may simply be uncertain or wavering as to whether they will be vaccinated. The evidence concerning the support or galvanising of the former group concerned the circumstances of the cancellation of Mr. Djokovic's visa by a delegate of Minister of Home Affairs, rather than Mr. Djokovic's views regarding vaccination. Nevertheless, the evidence did display an affinity of these groups with his views. All right, Poppy Seeds has a comment after I've read this. The possible influence on the second group comes from common sense and human experience. An iconic world tennis player may influence people of all ages, young or old, but perhaps especially the young and the impressionable, to emulate him. This is not fanciful. It does not need evidence. It is the recognition of human behaviour from a modest familiarity with human experience. Even if Mr. Djokovic did not win the Australian Open, the capacity of his presence in Australia playing tennis to encourage those who would emulate or wish to be like him is a rational foundation for a view that he might foster anti-vaccination sentiment. Right, go Poppy Seeds. All right. That's a very interesting comment, actually, isn't it? It's not. It comes from common sense and human experience. The phrase human experience was used by Novak's barrister Wood in the oral submissions in arguing the exact opposite of what this judgment states. Interesting, isn't it? Is that shade at the barrister? They essentially referenced him and went, "No, you're wrong." Yeah, shade. The above, well, see, I can see that. I mean, how many people everyone remember Pat Cash would wear a headband around his head? How many people wore the black and white checkered headband? How many kids wore, or how many people grew up saying you can't be serious? Like John McEnroe. You can't be serious. So there is an influential part of that, I guess. The above considerations can be seen to underpin and don't forget the Leighton Hewitt. Come on. So everyone wants to be like that. Yeah. And I think that's what they're saying, is that there is an influence, even if, look at how many people. I can tell you that since they put Nick Kyrgios on a court, people go everywhere. Andy Murray, people flock to go see Andy Murray. There are people that they just want to see, and so they're going to try and copy them. It's interesting. That's a point I had not thought of. Oops. Alrighty. See if I can turn this off. Alrighty, so let's get to number 383. The above considerations can be seen to underpin not only the state of satisfaction about health, but also good order and the public interest. There is also additional consideration of rallies and protests referred to in D34. Whilst it can be accepted that the evidence of those rallies and protests involving sentiment for Mr. Djokovic arose at the time of the cancellation of his visa by the delegate of the Minister for Home Affairs, it was not irrational to infer that Mr. Djokovic's presence may be taken up by such groups in future support of their views. Poppy Seed says there have been some criticisms of the wording in these reasons about the influence of public figures, though. Some in the legal community think it was too broad generic. Interesting. There is a question not explored in argument as to the extent of which one can or should characterize lawful, even if robust rallies and protests in the free expression of political or social views, even if unpopular, or held by a few people as a threat to good order. In the absence of argument or of it being an issue, we do not comment any further on this. Common recent experience does, however, demonstrate that some rallies and demonstrations concerning COVID-19 and measures to limit movement and activity of the public have involved some violent activity and have been the occasion for spreading of the disease, or at least that is open to be inferred. Further, it was not irrational for the minister to be concerned that the asserted support of some anti-vaccination groups for Mr. Djokovic's apparent position on vaccination may encourage rallies and protests that may lead to heightened community transmission. Further, there was evidence at D23 that Mr. Djokovic had recently disregarded reasonable public health measures overseas by attending activities unmasked while COVID positive to his knowledge. It was open to infer that this, if emulated, may encourage an attitude of breach of public health regulations. In my opinion, that was his undoing. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. I got no legal basis of that, but I think that is the thing that outraged a lot of people. Whether or not such consideration should have weighed so heavily on the decision was a matter of weight and balance for the minister. An allied proposition that it was illogical or irrational and so legally unreasonable to find that Mr. Djokovic was opposed to COVID-19 vaccination. We reject this for the reasons that ground 3 was rejected. Some emphasis was placed in argument on behalf of Mr. Djokovic on D22. It can be accepted that what is in parenthesis, C56 above and D22, was not supported by attachments K and L. However, it was supported by attachment H, which was before the minister and to which he otherwise made reference. Ground 2 should be dismissed. All right. So ground 1. The minister cancelled Mr. Djokovic's visa because he was satisfied the presence of Mr. Djokovic in Australia may be a risk to the good health or good order of the Australian community. Bo says, I thought that was very important too. I think so. You want people that take COVID seriously, don't you? Yeah, we got trolls here. In substance, Mr. Djokovic contended that the decision was affected by jurisdictional error because the minister reached the state of satisfaction illogically, irrationally, and unreasonably, and the discretion to cancel the visa was unreasonably exercised because the minister did not consider whether cancelling Mr. Djokovic's visa may foster anti-vaccination sentiment in Australia. Let me also tell you that there was lots of talk that either people were going to boycott the Australian Open or they were going to boo him. The environment was not going to be very good either. So you've got that side of it as well, that it was going to make the Australian Open a very difficult event for everybody. I think whoever Kyrgios played the other day, talked about how hard it was playing with the crowd because the crowd would, he plays up to the crowd. And, he was playing up to the crowd and that was very off-putting to his opponent, allegedly. So it says, in their written submissions, counsel for Mr. Djokovic put their contention as follows, emphasis in original. The vice with the minister's reasoning on the central premise is that it involves an irrational, illogical, and unreasonable approach to the purported formation of either or both of the requisite states of satisfaction in Section 133C3A and B, or the exercise of discretion. To address the prospect of Mr. Djokovic's presence in Australia, consequent to a non-cancellation decision, fostering anti-vaccination sentiment, but not to address the prospect of the binary alternative outcome, consequent to a cancellation decision that the minister ultimately selected, being Mr. Djokovic's detention and expulsion from Australia and the attraction of consequential bars to re-entering, fostering anti-vaccination sentiment, including at least potentially of an equal of not more deep or widespread kind. It was contended that it is more obvious that a decision to detain and expel Mr. Djokovic based on 2 historic statements about vaccination would be apt to foster anti-vaccination sentiment. In circumstances where the minister assumed or found that Mr. Djokovic posed a negligible COVID-19 risk to others, had a medical reason for not being vaccinated, had entered Australia lawfully and consistently with the Italia documents, and in circumstances where almost every discretionary factor weighed against cancellation. Ground 1 should be dismissed. It is not necessary for the minister to consider and weigh in the balance of 2 binary choices contended by Mr. Djokovic. The power to cancel relied upon the minister. In this case, arose once he was satisfied that the presence of the visa holder in Australia may be a risk to the health, safety, or good order of the Australian community. The words of the statute, the words of the statute direct attention to the presence of the visa holder in Australia. The provision cannot be interpreted as requiring the minister to examine the consequences of cancellation by way of a counterfactual directed as it is to the considerations of risk by reference to presence. That the statute does not require such a consideration to be examined, does not foreclose the possibility that not to do so in a given circumstance would or might be irrational or unreasonable. However, it is not easy to contemplate such a circumstance. There is nothing by the way of logic that demands it. Bearing in mind the statute refers to the consequences of presence of the visa holder in Australia. It may be that there would be an even greater risk to the good order or health by fostering of demonstrations if the visa was cancelled and the erstwhile visa holder removed from Australia. But that says nothing about the risk arising from the visa holder's presence in Australia, which is the statutory inquiry. The notion that the minister must, to be logical, examine both the hypothesis is only to force the minister to adopt one way of approaching the exercise of discretion. That is not to say that if the minister chose to examine the risk in the posted counterfactual, that he could not do so, given the terms of the provision are directed to presence. It would be in evaluating the public interest or exercise of the discretion to exercise the power. The minister would not be prohibited by the section from doing so, and it is not a relevant consideration for these purposes. In the sense discussed in Minister for Aboriginal Affairs versus Pesco Wilson Limited. In any event, the minister was, because he recognised it for his reasons, aware of the fact that unrest in the community occurred following the decision of the Minister for Home Affairs to cancel Mr. Djokovic's visa on the day following his arrival in Australia. At D46, the minister said as follows: I also acknowledge that Mr. Djokovic is now in the community and that some unrest has already occurred, such that it is too late to avoid it. This weighs in my mind against the public interest in cancellation. Whilst it is far from clear to what event this is a reference, the minister can be taken to be aware of protests that occurred in Melbourne on the 11th of January 2022 involving supporters of Mr. Djokovic. The minister also at D44 recited arguments raised by Mr. Djokovic's lawyers as to why he considered it would not be in the public interest to cancel his visa. These reasons included that cancelling the visa would be likely to adversely affect Australia's global reputation and to call into question its border security principles and policies, prejudice Australia's economic interests, and jeopardise the viability of Australia continuing to host the Australian Open and create the appearance of politically motivated decision-making. Although the minister did not weigh in the balance of the binary choices contended for by Mr. Djokovic, it can be taken that he was aware of any number of different consequences that might ensure if the visa was cancelled, including unrest, but having noted each of those matters referred to, the minister is to be taken as not having regarded them as something that, within the exercise of his discretion, he regarded as necessary to weigh in the balance of things. Further, the weighing of the counterfactual as to the unrest and the encouragement of the anti-vaccination sentiment would not affect the second group of people to whom we have referred as hesitant or wavering. These people who may, it can be inferred, be influenced by Mr. Djokovic's presence, would not be influenced relevantly in the way we have described by his absence. For the above reasons, ground one must fail. It says considerable debate took place as to how to approach the minister's statement of reasons with this case. So it sounds like that they had a debate. That there was because remember they all came to a unanimous decision in the end. So there was obviously a debate about this. So debate took place as to how to approach the minister's statements of reasons in this case. We do not consider that the resolution of that debate is necessary to reach the views we have. The minister was not obliged to give reasons, but he did so. They were evidently carefully drafted. The court has no doubt that in respect of a matter of high public profile, care and consideration was given to the formulation of the reasons in the 4 days in which the minister took to consider the matters and finalise and deliver the reasons. Nevertheless, some weight is to be given to the fact that there was no obligation to give reasons. Further, the stricture that the reasons should not be passed and analysed with a fine-tooth comb with an eye to identification of error is always to be followed. There is a clear interrelationship among all parts of the minister's reasons. The themes of encouragement and emulation of a sporting hero and icon run through the reasons for satisfaction as to the health and good order of the public interest. So just remember that he did not actually have to give reasons. He was not obliged to give reasons, and he did so. So it says, Parliament has made clear in section 116 that the minister may cancel a visa if he or she is satisfied that the presence of its holder in Australia may be a risk to the health or good order of the Australian community. The minister reached that state of satisfaction on the grounds that it cannot be said to be irrational or illogical or not based on relevant material. Whether or not others would have formed that state of satisfaction and the state of satisfaction as to the public interest is a consideration not to the point. The relevant states of satisfaction were of the matters which involve questions of fact, projections of the future, and evaluations in the nature of opinions. And then they've stated some more law. That is the position in this case. Another person in the position of the minister may not have cancelled Mr. Djokovic's visa. The minister did. The complaints made in the proceedings do not found a conclusion that the satisfaction of the relevant factors and the exercise of discretion were reached and made unlawfully. As the court said at the conclusion of argument on Sunday, the court was and is grateful to all counsel and solicitors for the comprehensive, erudite, why do they use big words? Erudite and clear submissions prepared under very tight time constraints, and for the economy and dispatch of the oral arguments. Such contributed significantly to the ability of the court to deal with the matter in a timely way. I certify the preceding 106 numbered paragraphs, a true copy of the reasons of judgment of the Honourable Chief Justice Alsop, Justice Bazanko, and O'Callaghan. So that was the reasons. What are your thoughts? I thought they made sense. I thought they made sense. What do you reckon? Oh, hello, Zess. This place is a joke. Okay, well, place. Basically, not obligated to give reasons. They did so is essentially a courtesy and shouldn't use any general lack of detail as good. Well, that was my understanding as well. So this is interesting because I've heard this rumor too. I've heard this rumor too. Tennis Australia Chief Executive Craig Tiley refuses to resign. In my opinion, he should. Tiley has rubbish. claims that Tennis Australia funded Novak Djokovic's legal expenses following the Serbian's high-profile publicised visa saga, also refusing to stand down as CEO. The 20-time Grand Slam champion left Melbourne late on Sunday night. 3 judges. So Tennis Australia finally addressed the situation in a statement on Tuesday evening that the TA board said it deeply regrets the events that led to Djokovic to travel to Australia under the impression
celebrating Samsto's
under the impression he had a medical exemption that meant he did not need to be vaccinated against COVID. On Wednesday, reports emerged that Tennis Australia paid for all the legal fees in the Djokovic cases, but speaking to Channel 9, which holds the broadcasting rights to the Australian Open, highly labelled those claims as simply untrue. I have seen those reports today, and we don't really go into detail of financial arrangements we have with players, he said on Thursday afternoon. But those reports are simply untrue. I actually heard some other ones today. The best thing about cleaning around all the staff and, all the people that work around is that you get to hear, I heard that one. Despite calls for tennis boss to resign, Tylee was adamant he would not step down. I'm very focused today on delivering a great event. I'm proud of being able to stand up here and you can see what is behind us. I'm proud of what the team has done and what we've delivered so far. Yeah, you haven't delivered the world number one. We have had 4 days of unbelievable tennis and great entertainment, and we'll have that for the next 10 days. Craig Tylee dodged questions about the Djokovic saga and TA's involvement with the world number one's medical exemption. We are moving on. What we've put forward for Melburnians for the next 10 days, and when we finish, is going to be an event that we look back on and be proud of as far as everyone's experience and the players' experience as well. We've brought in 3,500 people, or is that 3,499 people from around the world, over 100 countries, 560 players, bringing them into Melbourne, creating an event that connects the community. It's been a tough day. It's been tough for Melburnians and Victorians, so for us to create an event to connect everybody requires a lot of work. Following Stan Souza's final Grand Slam singles match, Tylee appeared on Kia Arena to present her Kia Arena to present her with a gift and flowers. His announcement was met by boos from Melbourne spectators. So, and then it says that, and then it goes into talk about the fact reasons. Maybe we need, I want to get a forklift license. So anyway. Yes, he was met with boos today. A lot of people, particularly in Melbourne, are blaming the CEO, Craig Tylee, because it has been reported that he's personal friends with Djokovic. There's lots of rumors going around about this. Like the rumor that if you're watching Mr. Tylee, I wouldn't mind being able to stay in the room that you booked for Djokovic, because apparently they're still paying for his accommodation even though he's not there. Like, surely they could put somebody in there. I don't know. Maybe why don't you let the homeless stay in it for a week? Oh, Djokovic would have been booed. He would have been booed. So here is the article. Oh, I like it when they said just because we didn't see it doesn't mean. It says Novak Djokovic in talks to sue Australian government for $6 million over ill treatment. He got ill-treated, allegedly. He's reportedly in talks with lawyers about suing the Australian government for $6 million over ill treatment during his stay in Melbourne. The unvaccinated Serbian tennis star claimed he had a visa exemption, but was deported before the Australian Open. The insiders told The Sun the damages figure includes the $4.5 4.35 million. Oh, that's a bit presumptuous. That is very presumptuous. Insiders told The Sun the damages figure includes the 4.35 million in prize money the world number one expected to have won. Was it a guarantee? I know he's the world number one, but world number ones lose. A source close to his agent, Odoro Artilati, said it is well known that Novak and his family feel he was poorly treated in the quarantine hotel in Melbourne. His mother revealed how it was full of fleas and maggots. He was kept a virtual prisoner. Well, what about the people that are having to live in that place, that have lived there for 9 years? No, and lawyer Toma Flila said he was subjected to humiliating treatment. He should sue. He was treated like every other alien. Can I just say, stuff up by Services Australia was ill for me, and I'm suing for 12 million because my case. No, well, that's true. Yeah, he was treated like every other illegal alien. Sorry, every other alien. I shouldn't say illegal because the people that were in our hotel are genuine refugees, and they should be released. So then it talks about the decisions there. But he's been barred, he's been banned from Australia for 3 years, but may be allowed back if the government believes there are exceptional circumstances. He could have just been injured. Well, that's right. I mean, he could have got injured. Hey, he could have got COVID again. Tomic has been diagnosed with COVID. Tomic got COVID at the Open. There's just been another player that got COVID at the Open. Could he have gotten COVID again? I don't know. Can you get COVID again straight away? I don't know. Would have been interesting. Definitely interesting. Yeah, I just don't know. I thought they would be complaining that he had to unless you're a Hillsong member. Well, yes, they are all vaccinated, but he's not. Thank you, cheap glass. I giggled over the word statute because we know that there's a YouTuber that calls it a statuette. And every time I see the word statue, I think of I get the giggles and think of statuette. So and for those of you that have been with me for a while knows the YouTuber I'm talking about, the statuette. The statuette. The statuette. So oh dear. So we'll see whether he can. So I'd like to know. So he was kept in a detention hotel, a hotel where. Does he really? Does he really have a forklift license? Now, if the minister has power to take away visas, and we know that he's given that family, or 3 of the members of the family, temporary visas. 1 he's not given a visa to, which is disgusting. However, he essentially could make a decision that they all stay. But he won't, and that's what we're all angry about. So Oh, really? Right where our shortages are. Well, he could be working. And the thing is, he's prepared to work. And that's what I don't understand. If he's prepared to work, then I don't see the problem. Look, I know people that are in community detention. They live in the community. They're not allowed to work in the community. They're not allowed to, they're allowed to volunteer in the community, but they're not allowed to do paid work. They're busting to do stuff. They want to feel like they're actually earning a living. They want to contribute. They want to feel like they're part of it, but they can't. There's so many restrictions. Oh, poppy seeds, that's, yeah. ScoMo's not the sharpest tool in the shed, no. Remember, he doesn't hold a hose. Did he really say that he wanted the age for forklift licenses to be lowered? Or is that just a rumour? Because I saw something about that and I thought, this cannot be true. Tell me it's not true. He did say it, did he? Did he really say that? What age did he want? I've seen lots of stuff where people have said, where I've seen someone to say that they're going to put the drinking age down to 13 so that we can, so that they can spend money in the pubs. But that's a joke, people. That's a joke. A lot of the people that I work with are here on student visas. They're overseas. They actually got stuck in COVID because at the time COVID struck, their country, a lot of them couldn't travel back, and and so they were stuck here, and then their visas expired, and they've been given bridging visas, and they're all waiting to find out what is supposed to happen, and then the government restricted how many hours they could work, and then they've lifted that ban. But I've spoken to 5 or 6 of them in the last few days, and I said, and they said our visas, we've just got bridging visas because they don't, we're just waiting. So, yeah. Who jump off the soapbox? Oh dear. Oh dear. It's funny. It's not funny, but yeah, it's sad. So this has just been, I just saw this while we're on the a Czech singer has died after intentionally, an anti-vaxxer. So an anti-vax Czech folk singer has died after she deliberately contracted COVID-19 to obtain a health pass that would have allowed her to visit the sauna and theatre, her family said. Proof of vaccination or a recent infection is required to access cultural and sports facilities, as well as for travel and for visiting bars and restaurants in the EU member state, which is facing a soaring COVID count. So the Czech singer, who was a vocalist for a band, died on Sunday at the age of 57. She voluntarily exposed herself to the virus when her husband and son, both vaccinated, caught it before Christmas. She decided to continue to live normally with us and preferred to catch the disease than to get vaccinated, he said. 2 days before her death, she took to social media and said, "I survived. It was intense." So now there will be a theatre. So now there will be the theatre, sauna, and concert, and an urgent trip to the sea, she added. Mr. Reck blamed the death on the local anti-vax movement, saying its leaders had convinced his mother against vaccination and thus had blood on their hands. I know exactly who influenced her. It makes me sad that she believes strangers more than her family. It wasn't just the total disinformation, but views on natural immunity and antibodies acquired through infection. So of the country of 10.7 million people announced more than 20,000 new COVID infections on Tuesday. So there you go. It was the opposite. It was interesting that the husband and the son got vaccinated, but she refused. That I find that to be interesting. So, and that she was happy to catch it. I've avoided it so far, touch wood. That is actually really sad, isn't it? And then there's this one. You know, we've been following the Cleo Smith case, and unfortunately, Cleo Smith's parents considering changing her name. She's getting unwanted media attention. So yes, she was found, and we're really grateful because if you remember, she was abducted. Cleo Smith's parents are considering changing her name to shield her from unwanted attention after her disappearance and miraculous rescue made the international headlines.
Members of Western Australia's police force have been formally recognised over the rescue mission of Cleo Smith. 140.
Shush. Don't want to watch. So Cleo's mother, Ali Smith, and stepfather have been seeking advice from other parents whose children have been unwittingly thrust into the spotlight. The couple are asking how young victims of high-profile crimes recovered psychologically and if their parents considered the process of professional counselling worthwhile. So a spokeswoman for the WA Police Force said that they have encouraged Ms. Smith to talk about Cleo's future with the parents of other children who have experienced traumatic events. It's expected that Cleo's story will continue to make headlines over the course of Kelly's court appearance and as she reaches personal milestones, including the anniversary of her alleged abduction and rescue. Western Australian Premier Mark McGowan even suggested a movie would one day be made about the ordeal, joking that normalisation of Cleo's disappearance and recovery. They're concerned about how their daughter will cope with years of intensive attention and the repercussions of the media and so forth down the track. Yes, I heard that. We can have a look at that too. Yes, they arrested the partner, didn't they? They arrested the partner. Let me just pull that up. That is unbelievable. That is just... I do catch up on, I do read, I do get things. I heard this morning that there was, that they had arrested somebody. Yeah, so that's the case in the Blue Mountains. So let's have a look at this one. Oh. Hang on a minute. I just see, here we go. Before I deal with the other one, let's just deal with this one. Scott Morrison's proposal to allow teenagers to drive forklifts dropped. It was like I didn't doubt any of you, but I couldn't believe you could be so dumb. The Prime Minister's suggestion to allow teenagers to drive forklifts have been abandoned. After it was greeted with widespread ridicule. suggestion was greeted with widespread ridicule on social media after he raised the idea of a national cabinet meeting. There are other changes that need to be made, and they're at a state level, and I'm continuing to pursue those with the states. There are changes that we need to make around age of forklift drivers to get quite specific. However, Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales governments have all said they've got no plans to lower the age, which is currently set at 18. He did not initially say how much lower the age should be, but referred to 16-year-olds. However, those who've driven forklifts immediately raised concerns with the proposal. I worked in a warehouse at uni, had a forklift license. I organised in warehouses for more than a decade. Letting kids whiz around on forklifts is insane. They are not dodgem cars. These kids are very likely to kill or injure themselves or someone else. JSA's job seeker allowance. Oh, that's hilarious. But see, South Australia and Western Australia have a lower age of driving. So isn't it 16? It's 17 in WA. Is it, what ages can you drive in South Australia? So I could imagine, I mean, you also have to have a car license, I think, before you can get a forklift license. So you'd have to lower the age limits. Oh, boy. Oh, gee whiz, that's funny. He did want to lower it to 5. I know, I heard that as well. It's 18 in yeah, okay. 18. I think 18. I mean, you could argue that 18's, are they responsible? But, you know. Oh, boy. I'm sorry. That was just hilarious. Oh, boy. Oh. Oh. Really? I cannot believe he would even open his mouth. Just shows you that he's got it just shows you how out of touch he is. In my opinion. All right. Tell me, here's the thing. If they're all at, let's just say we lowered the age to 16 and they're all at school, it wouldn't solve the problem because they would all be in school. Wouldn't they? All right, I'm just trying to find the incident. We need to send for the white van. That is just I just I cannot believe that. Like, because I actually heard people talking about it today at work, and I went, no way. Surely he can't be that dumb. Surely there is a limit, but obviously I underestimated the limit of dumbness. But the really sad thing is our Prime Minister. Oh, dear. Of course, ScoMo fans would think it's a good idea. I know a ScoMo fan who thinks it's a really good idea. Well, I think you're correct. Without a lawyer, it could work if it was done properly, but we know the government doesn't do anything properly. All right. It could be a very good program. But the thing is, the problem is that it takes common sense. Okay, so this is the latest I've seen. So I'm just going to put in a trigger warning. This is about a little girl that a stepfather's been arrested for her death. So it takes a devastating toll on the volunteer fire service. So it says one of the volunteers who led the search for murdered schoolgirl Charlize Mutton has described the impact on her death as a very personal and deeply distressing experience. Rural fire service volunteer Darren Rodrigo spent days scouring dense bushland and tackling steep terrain in Blue Mountains with one thing in mind: finding a missing girl. He said although the hundreds of search volunteers had suspicions that Charlize wasn't in fact missing, they couldn't give up searching. We knew things didn't stack up from the beginning when we started the search, but we had to operate on the basis we were looking for a missing girl. But the hopes didn't turn to tragedy when police found the 9-year-old's body in a barrel on the banks of the Colo River, northwest of Sydney, late on Tuesday night. Murder and death, when it happens to other people, it seems so detached, but it becomes so much real when you are looking for the person for hours in the bush. There was a lot of love for Charlize here. Hundreds of people, I think, gave their heart and soul to find her. It's just devastating. It affected me in ways I didn't really expect. It's been tougher than I thought it would be. Her mother is currently under medical supervision and hasn't been able to be interviewed by police. Charlize was on holiday with her mother and her fiancé at the family's luxury estate in Mount Wilson when she was reported missing last Friday. But court documents allege the primary school student was killed as early as Tuesday. Hours after discovering her remains, homicide detectives arrested Mr. Stein at an apartment on Riley Street in Surrey Hills in Sydney's inner city and charged him with murder. Police said abnormalities in his versions of events, CCTV, telephone intercepts, and GPS tracking helped them reach a breakthrough. They traced Mr. Stein's movements and discovered he bought 100 kilograms of sandbags in 20-kilogram lots and tried to launch a boat in Sydney before driving to Colo River. Hundreds of volunteers who searched day and night for Charlize in dense bushland have been offered counselling, including Mr. Rodrigo, as they begin to process the news. We gave everything we had, and she didn't pass without a lot of love, he said. Everyone was exhausted, but they just didn't say anything. There was a sense of determination out there. I'm really sorry that this happened. I hope she found peace. And, of course, our deepest condolences to Charlize's family and friends. Charlize won a literacy award while attending Tweed Heads Public School on the border with Queensland, where she lived with her grandmother, Deborah. Dozens of people continue to place bouquets of flowers, photos, messages, and teddy bears outside the gates of the school. It's put a dagger through the heart of the local community, Tweed MP Jeff Provis said. Callista Mutton remains in the care of doctors after being hospitalised not long after reporting her daughter missing on Friday. Homicide detectives have been unable to formally interview her and have been unable to establish a motive nor determine exactly how she died. Once Miss Mutton is deemed medically fit, she's expected to be questioned about the alleged murder. A forensic search of bushland around the Colo River is continuing today, with police insisting the investigation is still in its early stages. So there you go. What a horrifying story. There's just no words. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to like. I don't know what to say other than the fact that they got him. But, you know, the people are going to wonder why. I guess, I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether we get a why. It is very sad. It's very sad indeed. Yeah. Without a lawyer says, I don't know what to make of the mum. No, well, I'm sort of in the same. I don't know what to make of the mum either. Because if she died on the Tuesday, she was reported missing on Friday. What's happened between Tuesday and Friday? I mean, there's lots of questions. The timeline doesn't make sense either. If we were, you know, to be honest. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of any of it either. It's just very surreal. Like, for me, I just find the whole thing very surreal and hard to believe, really. Yeah, I just, yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. So, I just, oh, beep, beep, yeah, beep, 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 yeah. There you go. You got me to sing. I better go and put my other dress on, sis. Bella had to put her bins out. Oh, I had to bring mine in. Hello, Osbel. Oh, 2 minutes of this has just come out. This has just been released. Trigger warning. Mother of Charlize Martin's stepfather defends the tortured son as he's charged with murder. The mother of the man. The mother of the man charged with murdering his stepdaughter has defended her tortured son.
The next generation of university has arrived.
Not interested. She said she had not approved of her son Justin's whirlwind relationship with Charlize's mother when they first got together over a year ago. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Choose their partners, or sometimes it ends up in headache, like this one. Justin's had a pretty tortured life. It would hurt anyone to have a child go through this. It doesn't matter who you are, it would hurt you because parents know their children, and, you know, as I said, the mother is the one they need to talk to. Oh, she obviously doesn't like Charlize's mother. Ms. Stein described Charlize as a lovely little girl and a beautiful little girl who definitely didn't deserve this. After a desperate 5-day search, police on Wednesday confirmed their worst fears for the missing 9-year-old. The body was discovered in a barrel in bushland, and the girl's stepfather was charged. Major questions hang over the case, with police so far unable to interview the girl's mother, and who police claim have been difficult to approach. At this stage, we have no evidence to support anything else than the accused acted alone. However, it's still early days. We don't have a motive. What we have is human remains. We believe it's the missing 9-year-old girl, and we have an individual we allege is responsible for that murder. So here's how it's unfolded. So she's on Tuesday the 11th, she's allegedly killed by her stepdad sometime between 7 p.m. and Tuesday and 10 a.m. on Wednesday, according to court documents. She normally lives with her grandmother, but was spending 2 weeks during school holidays with her mother and her fiance in the Blue Mountains property. According to the article news, detectives who allege that Miss Mutton left Charlize in the care of Stein on Tuesday night. This is the thing. If what's happened, we're missing some. So Thursday is the next day. Police are later told Charlize was last seen on Thursday on the veranda of the Mount Wilson property. The 12.5-acre Wildestein estate, a popular wedding venue, is owned by Stein's wealthy family, as he is listed as his home address. He allegedly has phone conversations with Miss Mutton discussing purchasing a number of 20-kilo sandbags from a hardware store to fuel a boat and then try to float that boat on water at one of the docks in Sydney. Police will allege that Steins purchases 5 20-kilo bags of sand from Bunnings. They claim he then drives around Sydney for 5 hours with Charlize's body while he tries to work out where to dump her. He allegedly then visits a number of locations, including BP service station, 5 Dock boat ramp, and a Windsor boat ramp. The police allege that after unsuccessfully attempting to launch the boat, which is inoperable from an inner Sydney dock, he ends up hiding the heavy barrel containing Charlize's body in dense bushland after struggling to dump it in the Colo River. On Friday, she's reported missing. This is my question. Why does it take to Friday? She's reported missing at 8:20 on Friday, but she allegedly was killed on Tuesday. A massive air and ground search begins to find her. More than 100 police, state emergency services, rural fire service personnel scour dense bushland around the property. Neighbours report seeing a car leaving the property without headlights about 4:30 a.m. on Friday. Charlize's mother collapses, taken to hospital. Stein speaks with police. Police seizes Stein's red Holden Colorado ute outside the police station for forensic testing. On Saturday, the 15th of January, they take over the search and the property is declared a crime scene. Strike Force Bunina is established by Blue Mountains Police Area Command and assisted by the State Crime Command's Homicide Squad to investigate the girl's disappearance. Senior investigators say they don't rule anything out. Police divers seize the boat in the Hawkesbury River. They test it for fingerprints. The search continues in the dense bushland of the property. Sunday the 16th, they find very small and barefooted footprints on a fire trail. They say certain items have been found unidentified, but unfortunately they haven't led to anything which gives us a definite indication of a location. That they scour the Hawkesbury River. On Monday the 17th, a large number of police and detectives enter the Blue Mountains property. Media are told to leave. Reports at the time indicated police intended to interview Charlize's mother, but it understood it didn't happen. Tuesday the 18th, they conduct a search near the Colo River. A body of a child is located in a barrel. At 8:30 p.m., Stein is arrested at a unit in Riley Street, Surrey Hills. He's taken to Surrey Hills Police Station and charged with murder. On Wednesday, he appears in the Central Local Court on Wednesday, charged with murder, wearing a grey jumper and blue face mask. Here we go. His lawyer says his client has long-standing mental health issues that require high doses of medication. He requests Stein be placed in protective custody amid concerns for his safety. The magistrate says that request must be made with corrective services. He's remanded in custody to appear in court March 18. Police revealed that the search for the little girl took place as homicide detectives pursued a number of leads, particularly CCTV, GPS data, and phone records to track Stein's movement. They said they were tipped off by inconsistencies in the version that he gave to police. Post-mortem examination to determine the cause and purpose of Charlize's death is expected to take roughly a week, police say. Miss Mutton is still under medical supervision and yet to be interviewed by police. Charlize's biological father posts an emotional tribute to his daughter on Facebook. Goodbye, you beautiful little girl, he wrote. I love you so much. I miss you every day. So it's interesting now. But his mother didn't mention anything about mental health problems. She blamed Charlize's mother. But when he goes to court, I've got mental health issues. Seriously, if he has mental health issues, then I hope he gets the help he needs. I just hope that he's not using mental health issues as an excuse for getting out of what he did. But, So for me, there's lots of questions. What happened between Tuesday and Friday? Why did it take till Friday? If she was left in the care, and where was her mother at the time? Don't know. It's really quite scary, you know. So anyway, this is the last thing I'm going to do. We're going to talk. This will be the last thing, and then I'm going to head off. But they held a vigil at her school. So tears flowed outside a school near the border of New South Wales and Queensland as classmates and community members gathered to grieve for Charlize. About 100 people attended the vigil. They came holding balloons, candles, and flowers to remember the 9-year-old. Children and parents cried in the street and left tributes next to a shrine bearing a photo of Charlize. I feel for any family members and the nan she lived with, said local woman. All her family, friends, and teachers. It's really sad. It makes me really sad. Hours earlier, they learnt the search for Charlize had come to a shocking conclusion after police officers found a child's remains dumped in a barrel near Sydney, 800 kilometres away. Well, Chaotic says an argument could be made that all murderers have mental health issues. You could use that argument, I guess. Well, there's got to be something wrong with them, hey? Today is not the news we wanted to hear. I mean, this is horrible, says New South Wales Deputy Premier Peter Apoltool. This is horrific, and this is shocking. So this is where she went missing. That's where they found the body, and that's where he was arrested. Just so that you get some idea of the distance. And it sounds like also that his parents were wealthy. He showed little emotion as his lawyer told the court about his mental health issues and concerns for his safety. He appeared via video link. So the Tweed Heads public school student lived with her grandmother at Coolangatta in Queensland, but was holidayed in the Blue Mountains with her mother. The pair was staying at a wedding and function venue in Mount Wilson, and she disappeared on the afternoon of January 13. She was not reported for at least another 10 hours missing. So that's her school community there. The school issued a statement on Facebook writing that the community was absolutely devastated. We cannot begin to imagine the distress they must feel. Charlize was a much-loved member of our school who brightened all of our days every day. Tweed Heads woman Lise, who has a child in Year 4 at the school, said she was confident that proper support systems would be in place when classes resume next week. The school has already reached out and said they'll provide counselling, support, and everything for the children. So it's a good thing after everything that's happened. Kids don't need to be having to have counselling when they start a new school year. So, you know, it's not really fair. So, and I'm sorry to end on such a sad note, but, you know, it's heartbreaking. Look, I guess now if we need to look at, she can be laid to rest. She can be laid to rest finally, and hopefully the family can get some answers. But the important thing is that she's found and she can be laid to rest and be at peace. And her stepfather now can be dealt with through the system. And for those of you in other countries, we don't have the death penalty. The best he's probably going to get is probably 20 years to life. About 20 years is life, isn't it? So I was going to say, yeah, Chaotic says because he's a child murderer automatically makes him a target in general population of a prison. Yes, possibly. Child murderers and sex offenders are dealt with very badly, particularly child sex offenders. dealt with very badly. I've just demonetized my videos, so that's okay. It's fine. As I say, sometimes, you know what, the message is more important than the money sometimes. So anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. I'm sorry to have finished on such a really sad and somber note, but I wanted to go through the reasons for the Djokovic decision, why they upheld it, and then, you know, as we were talking and some other things came up, we were able to look at other cases and stuff. But yeah, ended on that sad note. And anyway, so thank you for joining me. I don't know when I'll be back on again. I'm working from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. But I'm up at 4:45 because I've got to be on a 5:15 train. Osbell says, please contact me. Okay, I'll contact you. Yeah, and I don't get home till about 5 o'clock. So sometimes I come home, I eat something, I go to bed, and I don't wake up until the next morning sometimes. But today I'm awake. So I thought, oh, look, the judgment's come. Poppy Seed sent me a message to say, hey, the judgment's here. And so anyway, pretend it's a heart. Yes, that's a really good idea. Everyone show support with a like at the end of the stream. The other thing is, if you're watching this on replay and you click the heart, which is a thanks button, I'll donate that money to, I don't think they've set up a foundation for or a thing yet, but I will put it to, I'll donate it to a charity that deals with child victims. I think Brave Hearts. I think is it Brave Hearts? I've heard of Brave Hearts. This one, yes. Brave Hearts is a leading child protection organisation. So I will donate to an organisation called Brave Hearts. So if you hit the heart, I'll just put a thing here for you. All right, so if you hit the thanks button and on the replay, and you make a donation, I will pass that on to Brave Hearts because they do. They're about. I haven't done anything about without a lawyer. They educate, empower, and protect our kids. So Brave Hearts is who I will donate to. Bella, I don't know who retracted because without a lawyer is a mod, so I don't know. I can't see any of those. All right, so make sure you hit the love heart. I just sent you a Twitter. Oh, okay, let's have a look. Let me just plan to create. Just sent me a picture. Oh, I like getting pictures. Oh, it was her. She did it herself. Oh boy. Oh, look at that. Oh. All right, let's end on this note. This is Plan to Create's puppy. Look. Oh, look. Oh. Look. Oh. To end on a good note. Good puppy. Kitty. Oh, the puppy's name's Penny. So let's say hello to Penny to end our stream. Oh, you picked her up today. Wow. All right. So let's say hello to Penny. What a great way to end the stream. Here we go. There we go. Say hello to Penny. There you go. All right. So hello, Penny. All right. So thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you again next time.